so high, gotta hide my face. This not a rock star.
Nah, stop the intro real quick. I'm back again. Wait, don't look at that. I couldn't explain. I had a copyright strike. I had to hit up YouTube with the quickness to figure out why I had this copyright strike, and turns out it was a false one, so that got removed. So we are copyright strike free. Number 2, I wanted to learn some more DaVinci Resolve tech specifically for this Ghost of Yotei video I've been working on. I made some new logos and these jokes are clean. Number 3, got a brand new job, so now I had to figure out what my new editing schedule is going to be like. And I'm making more bread. I count money, I count money, Alright, let me get to the vid, bruh.
So high, gotta hide my face. This not a rock star face. I'm an emo, thug in my face. 0, 0, 0, 0. Tell her to go chase. Monkey nuts, hold me, baby. I got on 2 chains.
Yo.
If there was one PlayStation game that I was so excited for when I first seen the first trailer come out for it, it was Ghost of Yotei. When I saw it, I was like, ah! Y'all do not understand. When Ghost of Tsushima came out in 2020, this was the Assassin's Creed in Japan that I have been waiting for the longest time because, hold on for a second. Ubisoft, I'm looking directly at you, my guy. Y'all made Assassin's Creed 1 in what, the late 2000s, 2007, 2008, somewhere around there? And you mean to tell me it took y'all 17 to 18 years to make an Assassin's Creed in Japan? Do you know how many people have been asking for this since the first game came out? And how did you let another studio do it before you when y'all was the originators? But you know what? It's Thanksgiving week. I ain't really gonna go off today, bro. I love seeing how Jin ended up in Ghost of Tsushima, to where he started at the very beginning of the game to see where he ends up at the end of the game. It honestly, that ending had an impact on me and made me very emotional, and I didn't know if Atsu dealing with the Yotei 6 was going to be as good a story as Jin's. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to be telling you my experience and thought of Ghost of Yotei. So let me go put that big spoiler warning on the screen. If you have not beaten Ghost of Yotei, leave now! Unless you're one of those people who don't care about being spoiled, because I know there's people like that. Also, I'm not going to be one of those people who talk about,
well, I don't like the game because Atsu is a woman and we're not playing as Jin, and also because the voice actor did this.
Shut your lame ass up! Damn! I did way too much yapping for this intro, so sit back and relax. Let's get into Ghost of Yotei. Just like Ghost of Tsushima, Ghost of Yotei looks absolutely beautiful. Like, I'm a very big person of art style, visual, and aesthetics. It doesn't have to be like the best graphical looking game for me to play it. As long as I really love what I'm seeing, oh man, I'm gonna be in this world for a long time. There's a lot of times while playing this game that I was just exploring the open world because I was just enjoying the scenery so much no matter which location that I was actually going to, and I love that. But even before the Ghost games were created, one thing I have to say about Sucker Punch, no matter what world they're in, they always made their worlds look cool, just like how they did with Sly Cooper and Infamous. Shout out to my Sly Cooper and Infamous fans, which, oh, Sucker Punch, by the way, please make a new Sly Cooper and Infamous, please and thank you. And something else I have to give Sucker Punch credit for, I love how in the open world for this game, they made it so immersive and seamless. Tsushima, it felt like a checklist whether you were doing the main missions for the story or when you were doing the open world activities. To where at times the game can feel very repetitive. But Yotei, they expand upon that because there's always something going on, and most of these locations that you're going there, it feels like organically instead of it feeling like a checklist. Like, for example, there's a time to where if someone looks like they need our help, but instead of actually getting help, we're about to get jumped. Like, why am I getting jumped? Another time I randomly went to this cave, and inside of going this cave, this was actually a way to start another bounty. Or one time to where I randomly played my instrument and then that just started a whole conversation with a whole different person. There's so many situations like this. It's just like, bro, this open world is so good, damn! And you know you get addicted to where every time these yellow birds show up, you're just like, oh, you know I'm doing something right now. Even though sometimes the birds lead you to absolutely nothing. You be like, also, if you play Ghost of Tsushima, you are going to feel right at home because a lot of this open world side activities they have in this game is very familiar. They still have your bamboo strikes with the occasional times to where you had to hit an extra button prompt. And then there's times to where the animals are watching you and the people are watching you. Homegirl was lit, I'm not gonna lie. The hot springs to increase your health, but instead of seeing those Jin cheeks, aka JC, you're now seeing those Atsu cheeks, or what that man Corey say?
Just leave a code name. AC, Atsu Cheeks.
Shrine climbs, box shrines, camps for you to clear out, side character missions for you to complete. The only thing Yotei doesn't have is haikus, but they do have it for the Jin Mythic Tales, so I'm very happy they included that in. Speaking of the Mythic Tales, the Spider Lily one, to where we learned the general accidentally killed his daughter Yuri. When you faced the Spider General at the end, he was so haunted and traumatized for what he did. He was looking at Atsu thinking that was Yuri, his daughter, like, bro, why are you making me emotional? I don't even want to fight him. Takezo the Unrivaled, to where you first have to face his 5 henchmen, and then you actually get to face Takezo, to where the first time he's actually teaching you, and then the second time you face him, he essentially becomes a Souls boss. The Stormblade one, to where you learn more about Jin Sakai, what happened after the events of Tsushima, and the bombshell of learning that Jin and Yuta had a kid. Oh my god, I couldn't believe it, bro. And after defeating the enemy who tried to steal Jin's Stormblade, which I was not gonna let that happen, I whooped his ass. We actually see where Jin's grave is located, and we see the mask he had in Tsushima. Bro! Like, I feel like there's gonna be a mythic tale for someone in this game. But there's also new things that Yotei added as well. So the cool thing about Yotei, you actually get to have a wolf companion, and there's these wolf dens that are in the open world, to where after following the wolf to the location, you fight the enemies to essentially free the other wolves. And as you do more of the wolf dens, the wolf and Atsu bonds more and more. And you actually get to the point to where you can name the wolf, which I named the wolf Kiba, shout out to my Naruto niggas. Instead of playing the flute like Jin Sakai did, Atsu actually gets a shamisen, which I hope I pronounced that right, because I probably didn't. And with the shamisen, when you play it, it actually can lead you to different locations on the map. So whether you want to go to Bamboo Strikes, Hot Springs, etc., with the different types of songs, it can lead you to that location. But honestly, I really didn't even use this till like near the end of the game, because I was so immersed in the world that I found mostly everything on my own anyways. Also, it would have been neat if the developers added to where if you actually used the shamisen in combat, that you were able to get health, defense, and attack buffs. I feel like it would be more of use that way as well, like, because again, I really didn't use it that much besides like the first like hour of the game or so. So instead of having haikus like Jin did, Atsu, she actually does paintings around the map of like the location that she is in, and I was like, damn Atsu, I didn't know you could draw like that. Also, I feel like this should have been the main way to where you actually open up your map instead of you actually buying the maps. Because when you buy the maps, then you have to put the map in a certain location, and it's just like, I ain't gonna lie, this whole mechanic is weird because it kind of throws off the immersion for a bit. It's more of a nitpick for me than anything. Altar of Reflections, this is how Atsu actually gets her skill points in the game. The Hachiki coin game. Essentially how this game works is like you basically have to use the flick of the wrist to hit the coin, but you can only hit one coin at a time, and you can't hit 2 coins. So I highly suggest turn it on that setting to where you exactly know where your coin is going, because if you don't, it feels mad inconsistent to where the coin goes, because if you miss, these AI basically have aimbot and you losing your money. You also have Pillar of the Fallen to where it can give you different types of sword kits, and bro, there are some nice looking sword kits in this game. Puzzle boxes that you will find that you essentially get rewards. Atsu also gets a periscope so you can scout out points of interest. You also have campsites to where this is a way that you can actually recover your health, able to eat you some food to give you some bonus perks, and sometimes there will be people who actually come to your campsite. Also, you can sleep, and we all need that. I'm an editor designer, I need to be sleeping more, to be honest. Also, before I forget, thank you for allowing us to be able to have the horse to jump, because the fact that I wasn't in Tsushima was mad weird. Also, this card system that the developers add to find the Yotei 6 and before you start missions, it is a very cool aesthetic and detail that I really like. Another thing I like is Atsu has flashbacks to when she was a child spending time with her family and the events she went through as a child before the Yotei 6 thing happens. It's actually a neat detail that I like. But my favorite thing about this game for the open world by far is the bounties. So you would think the bounties for this game would just be about killing one person, the next person, right? Nah, it's actually not like that at all. And there are some bounties to where you're actually not even going to kill the person that you actually have a bounty on. So it's going to be a completely different experience going from person to person. And that just made it so enjoyable and not repetitive. Like, you can really tell that Sucker Punch really made it to where they learned the mistakes, to where a lot of people were complaining about Ghost of Tsushima feeling very repetitive for the open world. So whether you play Tsushima or not, you are really going to enjoy yourself. Now it's time to talk about one of my favorite aspects in video games, the gameplay.
胃腸炎上のしべ今宵改めてやる
As we all know in Ghost of Tsushima, Jin Sakai's main weapon was his katana. But this shorty Atsu, she got a lot of weapons. She got her main katana just like Jin, a dual katana, a kusarigama, a Jaitiy, and an odachi. And just like the bow, kunais, and bombs that Jin had, Atsu gets 2 more ranged weapons, a pistol, and she gets a rifle. And bro, when I tell you, when I got these guns, I was using nothing but the guns. And the way you get some of these weapons, these games have weapon masters to where depending on the one you go to, that's the weapon that you're actually going to get. And also the fact you actually get to learn about the characters that you're actually speaking with who's actually teaching you how to use the weapons. My favorite weapon master training that I did was definitely the dual katana with Hanbei. You see Atsu struggling so much with the arm considering that's where Saito stabbed her at, so you can really see what she was going through. And basically because of the bamboo strike you do, they essentially gave you a fighting game prompt.
How do they even know I'm throwing the controller? Throw the controller 2 times? Man, come on! Come on! Nobody can do this shit!
Also, just like in Tsushima, depending on the weapon that the enemy is using, that's the weapon the game wants you to basically switch to. If someone's using a katana, you stick with the katana. If someone's using a spear, you use the dual swords. If it's a big enemy, you use the odachi, etc. So if you play Tsushima, the combat in this game is going to feel very familiar to you. And the more you get accustomed to actually learning how to use your weapons, switching to your weapons in mid-fight, building up your weapons and figure out the different combinations and such, bro, this combat, it gets so addicting. And there's also some tech with weapons depending on the weapon you use, but sadly I can't show that because if you show anything broken, devs take it away. So I'm sorry, I can't show you that. Also, just like in the first game, you are able to have different loadouts. So if you want to rock a certain type of armor with the charms that you get throughout the game, you can do that as well. I also really appreciate how aggressive the enemy types are in this game because in this game, they are really trying to cook your shit. So for all those people who are upset with how easy Ghost of Tsushima was, you are going to like how the enemies fight you in this game, especially if you get to the higher difficulties like lethal and hard. I was playing on hard and man, these fights are actually intense now, hold up! And because of how much weapons you get in this game, I was not sneaking around in this game at all. I was essentially ready for the smoke for anybody that I saw. Also, remember that wolf that I talked about earlier in the open world section? This wolf can actually fight with you in battle, and even times when you die, there are points to where the wolf can actually save you. I was just like, yo, word? And the more that you bond with the wolf, the better skills the wolf actually gets. And when you level up the wolf skills all the way, you can actually use a song to summon it in battle whenever you want to. Also, when you do standoff with the wolf in this game, you actually get to do this. And the more you progress through the game, they actually start adding traps throughout the world to actually stop you and give you tougher enemies to fight with. With that being said though, I do have some complaints about the combat in this game. I'm not really a fan of them taking away the weapon stance system entirely to give you the new weapons that you have now. Don't get me wrong, I like the new weapons. But the cool thing about being Jin in Ghost of Tsushima is the fact that Jin was essentially defeating every type of enemy with just his sword. And considering you had weapon masters in this game, I thought the more you progress with them, the more they were going to actually teach you about like new stances with your weapons. That's what I thought was going to happen, but that sadly did not happen. Because even when you get the weapons master's weapon that they were holding up, you would think you would get like a new ability, a new stance or something like that. No, it's just a weapon skin. Get this the hell out of my face, man. So to give you an example, I wanted the katana to have 4 stances, the odachi to have 2 or 3, the Jaitiy to have 2 or 3, etc. just to like add more depth for your weapons. So if you're someone who likes using a particular weapon, you can use that weapon throughout the game. Not saying that you already can't do that now, but I feel like it would have just been way better for the game to be that way. And it would have been better for people like me who really like to show player expression when playing their games. To give y'all an example, one of the reasons why I love Rise of the Ronin so much is because of the fact you can essentially use any weapon type that you want, because every weapon type had stances, so no matter what type of enemy that you were facing in that game, you can essentially annihilate them no problem, just because of the fact that you have different stances for different scenarios. But that's just a nitpick, it could be only me. I don't know if it's just me, the blue glint attacks and the parrying in this game compared to Tsushima, it just feels mad inconsistent. Like, I played Tsushima on lethal plenty of times, and I never felt like the parrying, it just felt off. But for some reason in this game, it just did not feel good. Even when I knew an attack was coming, whether I tried to parry or dodge, it felt like nothing wanted to work. It feels like the game has like a slight input lag before anything actually happens. And don't get me started with how crazy the hitboxes are in this game. There are so many times to where I'm not even near the enemy, and the enemy is basically lunging to me to essentially still hit me. I'm like, brother, how the hell did you hit me? I was all the way over there. Also, the times to where enemies will just have super armor at times, and I couldn't even predict when they were going to have super armor. It would just randomly just happen. And I don't know if it's because I was playing on hard either, but it would take Atsu forever to stagger an enemy. And keep in mind, throughout this point of the game near the end, I already had everything maxed out for my weapons and my guns, so why did it take so long for Atsu to even stagger like that? The disarm mechanic is very disappointing. When I first seen an enemy can disarm you from using your weapon, that was like, wow, this is actually about to get crazy later. Like, don't get me wrong, it's cool Atsu can disarm enemies from not having their weapons, but the only time the disarm feature for the enemies is honestly scary is when you're facing the Yotei 6 members, because they all have different and unique animations. But for the regular enemies, they all have the same disarm window to where it's so large, it feels you're never going to get hit by this anyway, in my experience at least. And I hope the developers essentially figure this stuff out with future patches. Also because Legends is coming out, and let me just tell you right now, I am no lifing Legends. Now it's time to get to those sections of Ghost of Yotei I do not like. To be honest, the Wolfpack, they should have just made this a regular index because the Wolfpack sucks. In Ghost of Tsushima, when you do the companions missions, not only do you actually get to learn about these characters that you're actually talking to, but as you progress more throughout the story, they actually progress with you, and if you actually do their missions, they actually do main missions with you. It's why I can remember characters like Lady Masako, Ishikawa, Norio, Kenji, since I consider Yuna, Ryuzo, and Taka to be the supporting cast of the first game. My biggest problem with Yotei is if you take the supporting main cast out of the equation, characters like Jubei, Kiku, Ayuki, and the Wolf for symbolism, if you ask me to remember any memorable side character in the Wolfpack, I mean, I can't really tell you, bruh. And you think with the name Wolfpack, if you bond with everyone near the end of the game, you're going to be seeing everybody help you throughout the end of the game. Not saying they have to fight like Atsu or anything. Taro, you essentially help him one time from some enemies. He essentially becomes a vendor throughout the whole entire game, and then at the end of the game, he actually helps people in the Shima Coast, and I'm happy he actually wants to be able to have a home and protect people, but that's all you really get with him. Ina, the bomb maker, you do a few missions with her and then you never see her again. Genji, he's just an armor maker throughout the whole entire game. You do one mission with him to where he actually gives you an armor. That's really it with him. Hanbei, after facing Saito, he's kind of been on his sad Drake Boy arc, and he's sorry about what happened to Atsu's dad and telling Atsu about revenge. So I mean, that's really it with him, besides that one time you see him at the end of the game. And you essentially see my point. The problem is a lot of side characters in this game are just not memorable to me in the slightest. Especially considering there are characters who are not even a part of the Wolfpack who should be here. Like Yugetsu, who is essentially the person who tells you about the mythic tales to begin with. Kojiro, who is essentially the bounty hunter and the reason you get all the bounties, and you even do a mission with him at some point. Shiro, who you had a bounty on, who you thought was going to be swiper no swiping, but turns out when you go to Ashima Coast, he's actually a really good person. Then you had a character like Magoro, who is like Kenji in the first game, to where like, he's honestly a lot more memorable than almost any of those characters besides the supporting characters in the Wolfpack. And the funny thing about this, characters who should have been in the Wolfpack, they got replaced by this bird? How did the bird get in? Alright, let's just get to the last section of the video. I don't want to talk about this anymore. The very first question I asked when I watched the very first Ghost of Yotei trailer is if Atsu's revenge story for the Yotei 6 is gonna be just as good as the story that Jin Sakai had in Ghost of Tsushima. Seeing Jin struggle with the fact that he wasn't able to save his father because he was scared to help him, Lord Shimura essentially becoming a father figure for Jin, and he's the reason that Jin became the samurai he was that we saw at the very beginning of the game. Yuna teaching Jin things that he didn't even want to do because he was a very honorable warrior because of his uncle. Khotun Khan, who essentially learned everything about the samurai, and he is the main reason that Jin and Ryuzo had to fight each other, and the main reason that Jin and Shimura broke apart from each other, because Jin started to realize if he kept following his uncle's ways, more and more people would be gone. Jin essentially who had to abandon everything he knows to become the ghost, to where he felt like that was right at the time to essentially save the world that he was living in, and he felt that was the only way to really finish the Mongols and Khan. And at the very end of the game, when you actually do defeat the Khan and having to fight the same man who taught you everything that you knew, who was essentially going to be your father figure, and fighting at the family's grave, it's just, bro, this story was so good. And giving the player the option to either kill or spare Shimura, it's chef's kiss. Y'all did that. So the main question you're probably going to ask me now, how good is Ghost of Yotei story? It's not to say that Yotei is like the worst story of all time or in the world or something, but compared to Tsushima's story, I just didn't like this story as much. Yotei, it has some great moments and the presentation is very well done, but honestly, there is a lot of questions in this story I gotta ask. We're gonna get to that right now. So the very first thing I want to talk about is the very beginning of the game. They call this event the Night of the Burning Tree, and it's the event of the Yotei 6 killing Atsu's family. Saito stabbed Atsu and left her on the tree to essentially die while the tree was burning. But Atsu was essentially of just seeing it. A great comparison I can compare this to is Assassin's Creed 2, to where Ezio, he was just living a normal life, whatever, and then his family was killed, and throughout the games you see Ezio grow to the character that he becomes. Like, I really would have loved to see that for Atsu. And I feel like throughout this time, we could have learned more about the snake and learned more about his whereabouts during this time. So that way, when we do get to Atsu killing the snake, it would have been a lot more impactful for me. Because just killing the snake as the tutorial boss, I really wanted to learn more about him, but sadly, even throughout the game, you really don't. And I also felt it would have made Atsu's family's death be even more impactful as her being a child and going through what she was going through, because I feel the way the game just starts off with Atsu's family dying, like, it really didn't give enough time for a build up for me to where I was just like, I couldn't really get invested in it yet, if you know what I mean, but that's just me. My favorite questline in Ghost of Yotei was the Oni questline in the Ishikari Plains. I really loved the Oni Raiders mask design and like how actually intimidating these people were, to where they were using fire weapons and that they were actually burning people in villages. It's like, oh no, these people gotta go. Also, this is where Atsu sees her brother Jubei is alive, and I am shocked as her, because how in the hell did Jubei survive this? Atsu and Jubei have some amazing plot armor, but we are going to talk about this later. And it's really cool to see Atsu's and Jubei's different dynamics, considering they have not seen each other in years. To where Jubei becomes a Matsumai's soldier, and he is very thankful for them because they're the reason he's still alive. And Atsu, going through everything that she went through growing up, she does not react the way that you would think of not seeing her brother for a very long time. She was kind of just like trying to become distant from him and trying to focus on her path on the Yotei 6, even to where she has a conversation with him saying, we don't really even know each other. It's like, damn, Atsu! But as you continue the quest line, you start to see Atsu and Jubei actually open up more to each other. Atsu, who opens up to Jubei, essentially telling him that she cannot escape that night of the burning tree, how she feels like an Onryo, and why she wants to kill the Oni for killing their parents. And she does not blame Jubei for anything that happened. And Jubei, not knowing why his sister was so much focused on revenge, and once he actually spends more time with her and understands from her perspective, he starts to realize why his sister became that way in the first place, where now he wants them to stick together to kill the Oni. Like, I really love the dynamic between Atsu and Jubei. Also, the Oni is my favorite Yotei 6 member. It is not even close. This man's design is so sick. He reminds me of the Khan from the first game, to where every time you see the Oni on screen, he just looks so intimidating. And when he sees Atsu and he tells her that he did not want to burn a child and rather be on the battlefield, and for the Oni fight being my first boss fight, it was really fun. And when you got to the second phase and the Oni did this, overall, the Oni questline, definitely my favorite part about the game. Next, we have the Kitsune questline in the Toshio Ridge area. And this is the snowy area of the map and the most unique location that you're going to go to in the game. Because now you're dealing with the Ninetales, and the Ninetales are completely different enemies from the Oni Raiders. They essentially pop up out of nowhere when you least expect it, and they have a completely different fighting style than what the Oni Raiders had. They were, to me, the most fun enemies to find in the game. Also, during this questline, you're going to be doing puzzles throughout the whole entire run, but I'm going to be honest with you, the puzzles aren't hard. But the most unique thing about this area is that the Kitsune that you actually see in the very beginning is not the Kitsune that you saw in the Night of the Burning Tree, because they're two completely different people.
Nigga, what?
But the saddest part for me is that I already knew Oyuki was the original Kitsune like very early, because she's one of the few characters who doesn't really question anything you do throughout the whole entire questline. She actually helps you with almost everything. My biggest problem with the questline in this region is the Atsu and Oyuki dynamic, but I gotta explain it first. So when Atsu figured out that Oyuki was the original Kitsune, obviously she's gonna be very upset and get very angry and that she actually wants to kill her. Oyuki did not even really want to fight Atsu, but Atsu, she is not trying to hear all of that. Oyuki telling Atsu to where if they get rid of the Kitsune now, it will make Saito vulnerable, telling Atsu about her backstory and all this other jazz, and the Kitsune days for her is over, to where they not only fight once, but twice. And Oyuki essentially being sorry for about what happened with Atsu's family. And Atsu says she will never forgive the Kitsune, but she will forgive the innkeeper's daughter, and she lets Oyuki live. Now, I don't have a problem with this. It shows Atsu's growth as a character throughout this region, but my problem is that Atsu forgave Oyuki a little bit too fast for me. In the Oni arc that Atsu was in, she was willing to do anything to get to the Oni. She was willing to sneak into the Matsume camp to get Mad Girl out of prison without telling her brother, by the way. She made her brother Jubei a prisoner to put him in the Oni's base camp to get close to the Oni and try to kill him, but that didn't work because the Oni threw her out a window. And as Jubei said during the time, they have gotten people killed because of doing this, and Jubei even defiled his clan by doing this. And you're going to tell me, after 2 to 3 missions and a few conversations with Oyuki at this time, who Atsu was very mad at, by the way, was able to forgive her that quickly? Like, for me, it would have been very different to where, like, this happened, like, near the end of the questline, to where they actually go after Dojin, sorry about the pronunciation of his name, to where, like, Oyuki actually saved Atsu again during this fight. Like, I feel like that would have helped me a lot, because for me, it just happened way too quickly. If anything, they should have revealed that Oyuki was the Kitsune way earlier, and throughout this whole entire quest line, we see Atsu not really liking Oyuki at first, but the more time you spend with her, by the end of the quest line, Atsu actually forgives her. I feel like that would be way better because Oyuki proved it by that point. Not saying she didn't in Yotei herself, but like, again, way too fast. It needed more time. But I also love the Kitsune's fit like I did with the Onis, and I love this boss fight as well. But now we're about to get to the part of the game I really don't like. Now we are on the Saito family questline, to where you face the dragon, the spider, and Saito himself. And this is also around the time that chapter 1 is over and you start chapter 2. And let me tell you, around this point, this is where the game gets really rushed. And the last area you go into the game is Oshima Coast. But before we get there, we actually see Jubei return home. And it was nice to see Jubei returning home and to seeing how everything felt after all these years, the same way that Atsu did at the very beginning of the game. And Jubei actually said he had something to tell Atsu, but that's when Oyuki pulls up. And when Jubei figures out this is a Yotei 6 member, he reacts the same way that Atsu does. Now Atsu, she's cool with Oyuki at this point, but Jubei, it takes him a lot of time to feel comfortable with her, as he should, because Atsu didn't tell him. And when we get to Oshima Coast, we learn that Jubei actually has a daughter named Kiku, who we will protect at all cost. And honestly, I love spending time with Kiku. Kiku reminds me of Atsu and Jubei at the same time. And the night that Oyuki, Jubei, Atsu, and Kiku were all spending time together, that was easily one of my favorite parts in Chapter 2. There's also another part, but we'll get to that. But now we gotta talk about the dragon and the spider. So first off, the dragon, I'm gonna be completely honest with you, the dragon, he basically gets no screen time. You see him in a few cutscenes with his brother and Saito, but when you actually face him, when you try to kill him a first time, he leaps of faith off the building and goes to the ship. And since Atsu and Jubei couldn't get him, and with the help of Oyuki and Kiku surprisingly, Atsu and Oyuki were able to sneak into where the spider was located. And just like Jin had his ghost moment in Tsushima, this is where Atsu gets her ghost moment. She got the mask that I've been wanting to get throughout the whole entire game, and the spider was doing a play of the Night of the Burning Tree, and that pissed Atsu off. So when she got to this area, she was farming like crazy, like like if you played it, you already know what I'm talking about. And Atsu killed all those people and actually didn't kill the spider. I was actually shocked, to be honest. And Kiku saw her auntie Atsu and was scared because of all the blood she had on her, which, I mean, it makes sense. But this part of the game pisses me the hell off! So thanks to Atsu and now the spider is captured, Jubei and Atsu's plan was to put the spider in prison to get the dragon and Saito to come to Matsume Castle and to get their family member back, right? But the problem about this is, didn't they just see the dragon leap of faith and go to a ship? And you see right here, they had absolutely no defenses for this, so Saito and the dragon pulled up, and all their army pulled up with ease! And then Jubei tries to say, the castle's being invaded! Well, no duh! There's no defenses! And don't even get me started with Commander Fraud Kata, who essentially does nothing throughout the whole entire game. When this guy first saw us, he was just like, oh, the Oreo, she can't be with us, But then later in the game, he's cool with us all of a sudden. Shut your And also while Matsume Castle was getting invaded, Atsu saw Saito and she was so locked on it. And even with Jubei telling Atsu that her niece could die, she said she could not let go. And I was like, Atsu, come on, bruh. So Atsu had to fight the dragon with the assistance of his brother the spider. And she of course killed the dragon. But because of this decision, Atsu has no idea where Jubei, Oyuki, or Kiku is. Saito seeing the dragon die, he disowned the spider immediately. But luckily, Kiku was at the temple that her father told her that this was going to be a safe place for her to be at just in case she needs it. And I was very happy that Kiku was okay, because if Kiku would have died, I would have got so mad at Atsu. But after this, Atsu decides to take Kiku to her house. I don't know why you would take Kiku to your house, considering that Saito knows that you're alive now. Like, that was just like a weird choice to me. And considering that you were going to see Hanbei anyway to see where the spider was located, you at least could have told Hanbei about Kiku. I'm pretty sure that he would have protected her. Oh yeah, by the way, when you go to see Hanbei, that's when Chapter 3 starts. So Chapter 2 was only like 6 to 7 missions at most. Atsu goes to see the spider again. She was really trying to ask the spider where Oyuki and Jubei were located at. And do you think the spider was going to tell her after she just killed his brother? No! And especially when Atsu asked about the other grave and we figure out that's their sister. And their sister is dead because of Atsu's father? Sheesh! So after all the running you do because the spider is trying to shoot you, and when you actually face him, and when you defeat him, and when the spider tells Atsu to kill him, Atsu at this point, she's not trying to kill anyone anymore. And with the spider not liking his father anyway, the spider told Atsu to meet him at the ferry so that way he could take her to the location. This is where we learned that Saito has captured both Jubei and Oyuki. And this is another question that I have. How did Jubei and Oyuki especially get captured? At the beginning of Oshima Coast, she essentially told Atsu about a network or something. Like, did she not tell the network before any of this happened what was actually going on or anything? And during the invasion of Matsume Castle, like, did anything happen to where, like, they both had to surrender or anything? To where, like, I don't know, but, like, the game doesn't really tell you anything about what happened. Because, first of all, Ayuki is an ex-Yotei 6 member, and Jubei throughout the whole entire game has showed us he is someone who can handle himself, so I don't even know how any of them got captured. So Atsu had to go all the way through the men in Saito's base to save her brother, which her brother was mad at her, by the way, as he should be. But it's kind of like the Kitsune thing that I talked about earlier. I do not think that Jubei should have forgave Atsu so quickly after what she did. Atsu, over your niece? Like, Jubei forgave her a little too quickly for me. So Atsu and Jubei were able to rescue Uyuki. After getting all 3 of their horses, you know what? I'm just gonna let you watch this.
Is this nigga serious?
I do not care if this is a video game or not, or what type of plot these characters have. You're telling me that none of them characters didn't shoot 1 bullet? This should not be possible. Bro, just get the mic on my face. I'm about to get so mad, dog. So, we go back to Atsu and Jubei's home, and this is where we learn that Saito has Kiku. You better stay away from her. But Saito said my fight is with the ghost. He told Atsu, if Jubei and Uyuki leave, they can have Kiku. Which they did and got Kiku, so I was very happy about that. And this is where Atsu learns there is more to life than just revenge, as Saito says they cannot resist the calling of revenge. But Atsu, she burned her patent list of all the Yotei 6 members to see that path for her is no more. And that was good. I like that. So now we have our actual final fight with Saito. Because just like how Jin had his first fight with Khan in the first game, Atsu way earlier in the game had her first fight with Saito earlier to where Saito wasn't using his sword. In the final battle, Saito wasn't using his sword again, but Atsu outplayed him this time, so now he actually started using his sword now. I'm just gonna let you watch the next part because this part makes me so mad.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the...
Where I saw this scripted ass segment on my screen to where I couldn't even disarm Saito when I've been disarming people throughout the whole entire game. And when this man Jubei comes to save me, I already knew what was coming next. But the thing about it for me was just like, Jubei, you're telling me you didn't even try to go get armor or anything throughout this whole entire time I was fighting Saito? And then here comes this part. I'm sorry, but when I saw Jubei die right here, I felt absolutely nothing because it's like the devs, they just forced it onto you and it was so random. And the way that Jubei died, it was just like such a NPC-ass death. And especially because of the fact that I talked about earlier, when he was a kid, he got shot with a gun! If anything, he should have been dead then! So after seeing this, Atsu kills Saito in the same tree Saito had Atsu at the beginning of the game. I like that. And then we just see Jubei die. This ending sucks so bad. If you really wanted me to feel something throughout this fight with Saito, there's other options you could have done. The first thing that could have happened is when you were Atsu going through Saito's base, she sees that Ayuki and Jubei are dead because of the mistake she made by facing the dragon at the time. That could have been one option. The second option that I would have loved to see, we would have seen that actually Ayuki saves Jubei and Ayuki actually dies protecting Jubei. And you know, Jubei, he started to believe that Ayuki was a big help by this point, so that could have been another option to where Jubei actually sees that Ayuki was a really good person. And considering the fact that Ayuki says that she's gonna make it up to you throughout the whole entire game, you could have had an option to where Atsu, after going through Saito's base, she sees that Ayuki and Jubei are not there, and that Saito actually took them back to her home. Give Atsu the option to choose who she wants to save. There is so many options that you could have had at the ending of the game instead of just having this whack-ass way of Jubei just dying just because they needed us to feel something. Also, by the way, why does Ayuki get so mute by the time you get around to this point of the game? It's like she's like not even a character anymore for some reason. And the whole time in the final fight, I was waiting for the wolf to show up and it actually didn't show up. I was just like, what? But I do love the fact that Atsu sees herself as younger Atsu. We see her crying and it transitions to Kiku. That was a nice touch. I do like that about the ending though. But at the end of the game, we see Atsu and Kiku spend time together like Atsu and Jubei did. We see them go back home to where Ayuki, again, she is mute. And we see Atsu go to Jubei's grave. And at the grave, Atsu sees the wolf that's been with us throughout the whole entire game again, and she tells the wolf that her hunt is over. And at the very end of the game, we see Atsu and Kiku talk to each other, and Atsu actually tells Kiku about a bounty hunt she had. And after doing the bounty hunt, you realize that it takes you back to the map and months before everything happened at the end. And Saito, considering that like he's the final boss of the game, it felt like you don't really see him that often. Like, I know we got the Saito scrolls to really know more about Saito, but like compared to the Khan in the first game, he just does not show up that often. Like, every time you see the Khan in the first game, he really makes his presence known as to why like he is a very formidable final boss for the game. But sadly with Saito, I didn't really feel any of that, and when I got to the final fight and when I finally killed him, compared to when I killed the Khan, it just did not have the same impact for me, and I was kind of just done with it at that point. So story wise, I just think Ghost of Tsushima is better in my opinion. Overall, I still think that Ghost of Yotei is a great sequel. Even though I critiqued the game and had problems with him, that doesn't take away from the fact of how much I had fun playing this game still. And just because I have critiques about a game doesn't necessarily mean I think it's the worst game in the world, because it's definitely not. And just like I said earlier, I am going to be playing that Legends mode when it comes out like crazy. And also because since I don't know when this video is coming out, I really hope to release this video by Christmas Day or New Year's, either one of those days, because that would be really sick. But if it does come out on New Year's Day, I want to say Happy New Year to everyone. I hope you guys have a great 2026. I do want to say I appreciate anyone who spends the time of day watching any of my videos, especially with my terrible upload schedule. 2026, I definitely want to create more work now that I'm more comfortable in DaVinci Resolve, but that's all I want to say because there are some videos I want to work on and I want to get right into it. But till next time, I'll catch y'all later to better days. Jenna.